YouTube and um, TikTok up both. Hey, Monique. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, Addie. How are you? Welcome. I'm getting ready to read. It'll be just a few more minutes. I'm going to start reading Emerge by Sara Gonzales. How's it going? You having a good day? Hey, Vincy. I've got YouTube going as well as TikTok. So, yay. It's just another day in paradise, isn't it? I am live on TikTok, so you can watch me either or, Miss Vincy. I'm glad to have you here. Hey, Montoya. Again, that was just a pass through, wasn't it? I'm still learning about these TikTok things. I'm still new to TikTok. Hey, Scarlett. How are you? Welcome. You're new. I'm excited. 2 more minutes and I'm going to get started. Okay. This is Nina in a takeover. I know you guys had like 3 today. Looks like I might have some people don't know how to get on there. Alrighty. Let's get started. Hey, Ori. All right, let me put my other glasses on so I can just do this and not have to worry about doing everything else. Okay, y'all ready? Prologue. You would think they would get used to how Hades delusions of grandeur with what the detestable brother does. Deplorable would be an accurate word to use where their libations were flowing freely. Crisp, fresh fruits, bread, and cheeses were displayed beautifully upon trays spread out over large marble tables for all to enjoy. His servants never left anyone for want. He was proud of all they had acquired and built in his long years of living. Hera floated around the room so gracefully, he often wondered if her pretty little feet acted as the most gracious of hostesses. Sarah, I'm also up on TikTok, so if you've got people that don't do YouTube but do TikTok, they can watch me live. It doesn't save it, but I mean, they can still watch it. His eyes always followed the people, taking in how their large shoulders built with the power to move him swiftly through the heavy seas. This is how it is on there. That's my username on TikTok, so they can find me. Zeus was usually so attentive to these things, decadent. Yeah. What else had he missed? He pondered as one of the young females draped in a simple white gown of free-flowing gauzy material graced him with a freshly nod and smile, accepting the sweet liquid. To his surprise, Ares, who normally would stand back away from the crowded gathering, was glaring into the scrying bowl as if he was not pleased. Moving to join the god of war, he offered up in another goblet from a tray one of the males in his service carried by. Ares took the drink with a grunt, his large hand palming the stem so tightly Zeus wondered if Hera would be replacing the small piece soon. You are much you are usually much calmer, my friend. The large male would continue to look into the water. He set his goblet near the bowl before making fists of his hands, placing them on either side. Have you seen this? Zeus had indeed seen what the god was speaking of. Zeus said nothing, waiting out the other male. I was under the impression our descendants were their powers and who they are. Ares had only recently begun to show himself more often. Zeus wasn't surprised the male had missed a few details. Hera stepped right into Zeus's arms where she belonged. Ares, once the fates created the decadent descendants. Why do I keep trying to? I know the descendants. It was basically out of their hands. It was up to those around them to protect them when they were young. As you know, not all were cared for properly, especially if Hades or anyone else found them. The male, the male before them turns his head, calming the fierce look before he spoke to Hera. Everyone knew if they disrespected his wife, it would be a swift death to them. Zeus would not stand for his wife being treated in any way other than with respect. I do not like what I have been seeing since the last battle. The tone of Ares was controlled and spoken through teeth that were being ground against one another. Hera laid her dainty head over Ares' forearm. Fear not, my friend. The demigods on earth keep proving their worth, not only to themselves, but to each other. Most of all, she turned her bright blue eyes up to Zeus, smiling and proud. They have proven themselves to all of us 6 times over now. 6 descendants have come to fruition. Maybe that is the wrong word, as they will continue to grow and help those that come forth. Hera's continuous smile seemed to soothe Ares, if only slightly. It was something. Hestia, goddess of hearth, did I say that right, Sarah? Hestia, goddess of hearth, joined them at the bowl, as well as Uranus, Apollo, and Persephone. Zeus and Hera took a few steps back, giving them all room to look. The water before them, their only view to see into the creation of the Fates and the lives they created through the very essence of all the gods of Olympus. It is like watching a bunch of worried and doting parents, Aphrodite says, as Zeus hears a small giggle from across the room. Aphrodite was sprawled out in what Zeus would call a demure manner, young males and females alike doting all over her. They were feeding her fruits one small bite at a time, waving a large leaf, fanning her, as if she needed it with the cool breeze blowing through, he thought. Does that bother you, Aphrodite? He asked of her, seeing how relaxed she looks. He was sure it was not a comment made of sarcasm. Seeing her beautiful pale locks piled on her head in ringlets, with only a few wisps hanging to be brushed by the breeze, her white gown, long to her ankles, yet revealing much of her assets, all proving what a treat to the eye she was. I once thought it would. When the fates ask for something so important, I thought, no, this is too personal and only something we should be recreating. You ordered it, so I gave as you asked. Zeus listened, blocking all the chatter of the others out. He had wanted the others' honest opinions when he had come to them with the original request. Some offered, some stayed silent. Those that used silence worried him. Now, one by one, each had been slowly revealing their true feelings, and he would give them his full attention. It was the least he could do, given what they freely offered. Now I see into that bowl, and I feel pride. I have not seen thine own descendant thus far. I, however, have seen such pride of those who have, leaving me looking forward for when mine own arises. Aphrodite's smile was almost as sweet as his hair as she said what she felt and returned her attention to those being attentive towards her. Oh my goodness! He hears a female voice cry out in shock from near the bow. Zeus was so focused on Aphrodite he wasn't sure who had spoken. He and Hera looked to each other, then moved right back to join the gathering. More had joined, each peeking in, murmuring concerns for what they had been seeing. When Zeus looks, he could only raise a brow in confusion and possibly a little happiness. Making a fist, he uses his knuckles to knock on the marble tabletop to get everyone's attention. It seems more have arrived, not just Colby, whom, he looks to Poseidon, giving him a knowing nod, was recently rescued by Mark from Hades' clutches. It seems at regular intervals more are coming forth. A loud boom made everyone jump as Ares growls. This coming forth you speak of, he points to the bow, looks forced. Ares raises his voice louder, assuring everyone heard him. Before Zeus could speak, Oceanus stood from where he had been draped in females being extremely attentive to him. Hey, everybody. Hey, Scarlet. Oh, you're on twice. Hey, is it Marty? How's everybody doing? Thank you. Okay. If you ask me, oh, let's see. Oceanus stood by where he had been draped in females, being extremely attentive to him. His walk was one of purpose, joining them at the table and bowl, his eyes seeing what everyone else could see and studying the scene unfolding before them. If you ask me, he looks at Ares with an arrogant smirk, which I am well aware you didn't. I believe the timing is what we can call well met. There are now 6 well-trained descendants. Oceanus points to the bow, pressing his finger into the water, making his points. 6, Ares, and now the young female and the newest you see. Will have 6 powerful demigods to help pave their path. They are not going to be alone, because the fates laid out this path with a purpose. Zeus looked to see everyone was paying attention, nodding their heads, whispering how they felt as well. Ares did not contest the other god's words. Sweet Hestia turned to Ares, instantly calming him when she spoke with her soft voice. One of the things said the most, we all need to have faith. You agreed, along with everyone, this was the right thing to do. Everybody, I apologize if I'm getting some of these voices mixed up because there's so many. I'm not used to having this many voices. Okay, Zeus could see the tick in the male's jaw, but Ares did nod that he agreed. Hestia stepped closer to Ares, almost in a plea to understand. Each time this happens, each have found their way. It is that bond between them all that guides them the most. The fates may not explain themselves, but what they have done so far shows in those we have been watching. Have that faith in my friends, not just in the fates, but in Gaia as she plays a hand as well. And those on TikTok, if you're having a hard time here, you can go to my YouTube page, which is in my bio, and vice versa for those on YouTube. If you want to go to TikTok, some people are picking it up better than others on one way or the other. So I apologize for any bad connections. I live out in the country, so let's see. Hera sniffled, making Zeus look down to her eyes, blue eyes that glistened in tears. When he looks down at her in confusion, she smiles, telling him, "Happiness, my love," and waves her hand around, especially towards Hestia. Those words were beautiful, and I couldn't have said it better. Hestia was shy and quiet as a mouse most of the time. He could see now why his wife felt the emotions she did. All the worries and turmoil have brought the gods closer and made them more emboldened. Hey, Miss J, or Esmira. I recognize the picture first. He could see now why his wife felt the emotions she did. All the worries and turmoil have brought the gods closer and made them more emboldened, especially because it was like watching your children growing up. Yeah, and it's really strange, Scarlett. I don't know why YouTube does that sometimes, but it records them so you can always go back and rewatch them. So, uh, let's see. Aphrodite stood, dislodging all of her pursuers to glide herself over and stand with himself and Hera. I look forward to the day mine comes forth. In the meantime, I believe the humans call it aunt or aunt. I am like a proud aunt watching my brothers and sisters stand with pride as as their children grow up and do wonderful things. She and Hera both giggle, which brings on many other females giggling, and all of their males shaking their heads at the silliness of the line Aphrodite was bringing up on them. Zeus understood where Ares was coming from, however. Every one of our descendants' backgrounds are different. We have watched this time and again, and now we will continue. By each of you joining in and coming more often, we have not missed much of what is happening on Earth. No lectures today need to happen. No words will change what is set in motion. What I will say is to continue this vigilance. Many of you have seen things and reported to the fates as we requested. Zeus kisses the top of Hera's head. By doing so, I believe is the season while we are seeing what we are now. Zeus points to the bowl and what happened at the reception of the trio's wedding. The fates have a way to handle mishaps, even in the smallest of ways. Now, let us enjoy all of our libations, visit, and watch what comes next. Chapter 1, Ben. Okay, for those that are new to this and haven't read this is book 3 in the Descendants book. So there is some prequel to it that you will probably want to read in order to catch up with everything. They say in darkness you can find answers. Ben wasn't sure how true that was. Now, some more background. This chapter 1 is starting on Earth with the Descendants, so the story is actually about them. Here he sat in Camden's guest house in the dark, 6 weeks after the wedding he had attended with Cam. They wanted to surprise the bride and grooms with the Dane Hunt experience. Damn, what an experience that had turned out to be. 6 weeks of learning and trying to understand how a life he thought he knew was nothing but a lie. 6 weeks of feeling something so heavy, yet so addicting, running through his veins like a live wire, constantly energizing him. He had always been full of energy, but now it was different. Gone was the happy go lucky Ben Hunt. In the new, and was he improved? Hell, he didn't know because he was so fucking confused. He could admit the one thing that did happen was he could sleep and hard. Gone were the nightmares he had lived with for so long as he could remember. Now all he had was the memory of them. Some days he wasn't sure it was different than actually having them. He looked around the room at the simplicities that were all around him. Large open concept that matched Cam's big main house, only on a much smaller scale. Neutral earth tones and everything, making it warm and welcoming. He had stayed in the guest house a bunch of times since Cam had moved to Virginia. Not once had he paid much attention. It was just a place to crash when they worked in Cam's studio. Seeing it now, it was comfortable and inviting. Some changes had been made since Natalia and Cam had hitched. Like a few pictures on the wall were new. Both were watercolors, and if what he heard was true, the big guy deacon that married Mark and Ella was the artist. He was no art guy, but he knew they were done well. The scenes were of Camden Creek in one of the frames, and the other oversaw the mountainous ridges along beyond the creek. They were beautiful. He liked the new little touches, even the extra thick fuzzy throw rug between the oversized couch and love seat. That rug felt amazing between his toes. He had no foot fetish because ew, gross, but damn, it was kind of soothing. Now he knew his brain was fucked up because he was thinking about how gross foot fetishes were. Fuck! He slams his head on the armrest of the thick leather couch he laid on in frustration. After a few minutes, he had considered getting up and grabbing a beer and then moving to the patio out back. It was simple and quiet, and on a good day, he could hear the creek if it was flowing well. Maybe he should. Nah, okay. No, he would. With a grunt, he drops his feet to the thick plush carpet before making his way outside through a single door. It was nothing fancy, small table and chairs with an umbrella for shade and two chaise lounges. He grabbed a beer from the hidden ice chest, twisting the top off and dropping his ass down on one of the extra thick cushions that adorned the lounger. His thoughts had been so insane since that crazy ass groupie jumped on him. He raised his hand to his neck to find it bare. The necklace he had worn since he was a kid was no longer there. He wasn't sure if he should be sad, hurt, or incredibly pissed off. In 6 weeks, he had learned what a birthmark that looked oddly like a broadsword down his spine meant. The same birthmark he had covered in a very large back piece. That tattoo had been a gift to himself after he had made his first big money. It covered the birthmark, which he had originally thought was a bonus. Now the birthmark shone through the ink. Once again, it was 6 weeks. It actually looked kind of cool when he thought about it. The sword in the middle of all the feathers just had this badass feel. Speaking of the birthmark, the kisses was a bit odd. Then again, what he felt towards everyone after was also comforting. Ben took a long pull from his beer as he thought back to the day Mark, Deacon, and Ella came back from their honeymoon. Heath and Kim had shown up insisting he join them all for a barbecue at the new Crave Ocean Experience. He couldn't deny the place was unlike anything he had ever seen. Ella had really hit the lottery meeting the scientists that wanted to save all the oceanic life in her aquariums. No one would ever believe there was an underground ocean and beach like Oasis in the mountains of Virginia if they didn't advertise either. Heath had pointed out how well the business was doing and how well it was bringing attention and revenue to their little community. It would be a vacation destination for many soon enough. Add in all the fresh, renewed campsites Mark had taken on, and the town was booming with visitors. Yes, it made a little more difficult for Cam and himself since their faces were so recognizable, but they had been managing and would continue to do so. Ben brought his mind back to the birthmarks, shaking his head as he took another drink. You know what we are now, what you are. But now you and Colby need to bond with us. It will not only make you safer, but it will ensure you can utilize your powers better, Heath explained. I am still I still am figuring out what I have. Did you see the tree in Cam's yard? I could have destroyed the guest house when that came down if it hadn't been for Cam's quick thinking to use the wind directing it away. He countered how he was feeling. I promise you both, you will feel sure of what you are and the powers that are within you once you are bonded to us. Heath's smile was so freaking calming it had annoyed Ben. Mark stood with his arms crossed over his big chest, looking every bit of the descendant he was. The huge aquarium behind Mark, as they talked, made Mark look like he was glowing. Hell, maybe he was. Ben didn't understand the time, but he was learning and he realized at that moment he wanted to. Look, we get your life just got turned on its head. Problem is, Mark waved his hand between all the descendants, don't have time to play around with what ifs or maybes. This is real. We are extremely real. You are one of us, Colby. Colby is one of us. Mark looked to Colby with a softened smile. She was so beautiful and sweet. He wanted to get to know her too, since she was new to the group. He at least knew everyone except Deacon, and he knew the guys would make sure they got to know each other too. Ben remembered taking a bite of the burger he had been eating, using the food as a distraction and giving himself time to think. He finally had just asked, what do we have to do? At the time he was worried it would hurt or revolve around slicing hands and doing that blood brother thing. We kiss each other's birthmarks. That brought his head up so fast he hadn't remembered to swallow his next bite of burger. Cam was on him, patting his back. He felt a warmth go through him, and instead of coughing up the hunk of food lodged in his esophagus, he felt it almost melt, leaving him sucking in air and able to swallow. Did you do that? He looked to Cam, asking. Cam gave him a nod. I have healing powers as one of my gifts. You'll be able to share that gift to some degree through the bond. For the next hour, each person walked by and kissed his back, specifically his spine. He had never felt so loved as he did in that moment in time. He had honestly thought they were all crazy until he felt it. Colby was the last one in line to kiss him, and what he felt was more from her. She had placed her hands on his hips. He heard her breathe in, like she was smelling him. Then her lips were on his back, lingering much longer than the others. He felt like a teen boy right there and then. His body was firing on all cylinders, showing his reaction through the extreme tightening of his jeans. He could feel she didn't want to let go from her touch as well. When she did let go, he turned to have her staring up at him like she was feeling the same thing he was. The whole thing happened again where they each went down the line making sure Colby was kissed as well. He remembered kissing each one of his friends. No, they were his family now. Even through the disbelief and confusion, he knew they were family. Ben could feel them to his very core, just like Colby, and he was last to kiss her. She had what looked like a bouquet of wheat and wildflowers on the inside of her right bicep. It was so pretty and sweet, and when his lips met her flesh, he felt a whole lot of electricity flowing through him, making every hair on his body stand up and take notice. He held her arm gently as his lips lingered just as her lips did on him. Her green eyes held his, and everything around him was silent. Well, I would say another one bites the dust. The chuckles that followed that comment brought him out of his shock, although it didn't stop he and Kobe's direct eye contact. It was Cam's firm hand on his shoulder that made him look away. All right, buddy, we all get it, but for now, you both need time. You and she will have an eternity to figure out what we all just saw happen. Fuck, no one could have missed what had just happened. He had never felt anything so all consuming. Ben finished off his beer and retrieved another. Back in his lounger, he let his mind continue to wander. Years and years of nightmares. His parents had been told he had a nightmare disorder. Someone, when he was older, said night terror disorder. The difference is one you remember when you wake and one you don't. He had nightmares he always remembered, even when he would tell his parents or anyone that slept in his bed that when they happened, he didn't remember. How do you explain the vivid visions of blood and gore, torture of monsters and humans? Things with nightmarish faces that taunted him every night are not exactly something a man can save face with and not lose his proverbial man card. As a child, he learned what sex was through nightmares. Fortunately, he had teenage friends that later, when his body went through puberty, showed him porn. He almost laughed thinking about it because no one should believe that porn is the way sex always is. What it did do for him was show him that sex was not meant to be pain, torture, and cruelty. He learned it was pleasure and happiness, and well, some pain, but in a good way. If he had told his parents he knew all about sex when they wanted to discuss the birds and the bees, he would have been taken to a mental facility. His life growing up wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't all bad either. He did eventually leave his family home. He had been gone years when he found out he had been adopted and that was by accident. His dad had been in the hospital and the doctor was discussing transfusions with his mom, and their blood types were brought up. The doc wanted to possibly use Ben's blood, and his mother's reaction was to look like a frozen statue as she said, "That probably won't be possible." It had taken a few minutes of the constant replay of the words for her meaning to register in his brain while the doctor stood looking confused. His mom finally said the words, "We adopted him as a newborn." She didn't even look at him or try. It took 3 days before she finally told him that he had been left on the porch of a church that she and her dad were members of. They could they couldn't have children, and their pastor knew of their predicament. With the help of the church, they were approved to keep Ben. They didn't want Ben to think he was unwanted by anyone, so they thought it best to keep the adoption a secret. He had barely told Kim only weeks before when Kim pointed out that almost every descendant was adopted. Nat, so far, being the only one that hadn't been, and even then, her parents were nothing more than evil pawns in a game. Maybe it was what drew him and Kim together so fast as friends. Hell, Kim was the only person until recently he could ever count on, to be honest. Although Kim had hidden his true self once he found out what he was, Ben totally understood it now. He was a descendant of the Greek gods. Fuck. He wiped a hand over his face before upending his bottle of beer and swallowing every drop. You know you won't find the answers in the bottom of that bottle. Cam's voice made him jump, then relax as he set the bottle on the table. Cam grabbed up his own and joined him on the other chase before speaking again. I stood there for about almost 5 minutes before I decided you were way too in your own head. Ben moves his eyes to see Cam was looking out to the beautiful lush green forest that was his property. Ben really loved the serenity of this place. Just thinking on everything, I guess. Cam's head bobbed in understanding. When Nat saw that crystal on the ground, she recognized it instantly. Before she could move her lips or her body to try and grab it, it was crushed. Ben was sure Cam was replaying what he was seeing in his own head. Did she tell you she has one tucked away, hidden safe? Ben nods his head, but then tells Cam, yeah, her grandmother's or something. Cam nods his head. Yeah, that's why she knew. Her grandmother was an evil, underhanded, abusive bitch. As far back as Nat could remember, her grandmother was cruel. Just like the rest of her family, really. Right before her grandmother died, the old woman yelled out what that necklace was. That was why she knew when she saw it. He had wondered how Natalia knew. I've never been mean or cruel, though. Now he watches as Cam sits up, turning to sit on the side of the chase facing him. Hades used Natalia's family to train her. He made them his minions and controlled all they did. They were nothing but slaves to do his bidding. His goal had been to make her as well trained and as strong as he could before he made her his. Then he could use her as well. Cam smiles with pride as he continues. Not my girl, though. No, my beautiful goddess was stronger and more powerful than Hades realized, and most of all, smarter. I have been talking a lot to Nat about her necklace, and you. Why you had why you had one at all. Our best guess is because of who you are as the descendant. Each of us is honestly equally as powerful. We just have different skills and for different reasons. Ben, you are the descendant of Ares, god of war. Dude, seriously, you are a massive threat to Hades. I'm sure he tried with each of us. Somehow he got to you, though. Using that necklace, he was able to hide your powers. He would have come for you eventually, making it impossible for you to deny his offer, like dangling a carrot to a deprived rabbit. Cam pulled hard on his bottle, taking half of its contents as Ben climbed up and grabbed a third bottle for himself and a second for Cam. Pacing around the patio, he opened and downed half once again. He thinks I will learn everything fast now that my essence has returned to me. Like, what is that charm around your neck was only the power that was withheld, but that my body will just know what to do with it. Ben tipped back the rest of the bottle, finishing it off, as Cam opened his bottle, taking a sip. He sat back down, only now he sat on the edge of his lounger facing Cam. 6 weeks, and here I sit. My head is so fucked up by all of this. Cam reaches out, giving Ben's knee a pat. Of course it is. Hades wanted that. Don't let him win, brother. Cam didn't know the extent of his nightmares. No one did. He was glad they stopped, but as he had thought earlier, he still remembered them. You told me of the battles you all have gone through. Is it really bad where he took you? Like, you said he's a sick bastard, but like, is he really that bad? Cam downed his bottle and set the empty on the table. Ben gestured to the ice chest, but Cam shook his head no. Think worst case everything. Torture, rape, blood, whips, chains. I don't mean the fun private let's get our kink on either. I mean horrific, awful depravity that will make the strongest of people sick to see or live through. Kim's head turns away when Ben reaches out to him. Before he knew it, they were in a tight, one-armed hug. I don't mean to make you relive anything, Ben whispers as Cam shook his head, pulling back to sit upright again. Nat, man, she's the strongest person I know. He made her life hell, and she lives her life to the fullest and somehow doesn't let her memories eat her alive. She has a nightmare once in a while, but usually I can help her shake it off. Ben looks down at his hands, making fists, then releasing before repeating. Cam's hand was suddenly over one of his. Want to explain what you're thinking? Ben looks to the forest, wondering if he could get the words out that he had never spoken out loud. He shook his head, thinking he couldn't. Sometimes we have found Sometimes we have found by speaking to each other what's eating us up inside. It has no power to control us any longer. Kim's words of wisdom irritated him, making him snarl, "Okay, out." "Okay, Dr. Freud." Kim rolled his eyes, laughing. "You can get angry all you want, but whatever's eating you up won't stop until you get it out. So be it me or one of the others, find a way to make it happen. In the meantime, the guys expect you at my gym after closing. You have training, so you best have your ass there." Kim stood, placing his hand on Ben's shoulder, giving it a squeeze. "I love you, man. You and me, we've been through a lot. You don't get to wallow for long." Ben watches his best friend in the world walk away, leaving him feeling like a complete asshole. Ben needed to get out of his slump. He couldn't keep feeling like he was and taking it out on the very people that he knew were there for him. Ever since that bonding kiss, he could feel them all. They even spoke in his head sometimes, which was still very weird. Most of all, if he didn't get his shit together, how could he pursue the one thing he wanted the most? A light in his very dark world. He had barely had any words with the woman. Hell, she was a demigoddess. When he saw her at Crave eating at the counter, he had thought to sit with her. It had been more than a week ago, but he could see it in his mind like it was yesterday. Her honey blonde hair shining in the morning sun that beamed through the window of the diner. Instead of sitting next to her like he should have, Ben took a booth in the back corner like some stalker. He almost forgot to look at the menu because he couldn't keep his eyes off her. Shirley had broken the spell on him with her teasing that he was burning a hole through her pretty backside. He was, or had been, always confident where women were concerned. Being the hunt part of the Dane Hunt experience made women flock. Prime example, the wedding reception. Since he laid eyes on Colby at the wedding, he had zero interest in anyone but her. Deacon had walked into the diner while he sat staring. Ben watched the man stop by Colby, lean down, kissing her temple. He wished it had been his lips. Shirley handed Deacon a bag with food to take with him. Then Deacon walked over and sat down uninvited in the booth opposite Ben. Ben's eyes finally moved from Colby to meet with Deacon's super dark blue eyes. They were like midnight and full of stars and mesmerizing, catching his attention. Shit. He realized that he was a part of Deacon's powers, and Deacon had done it on purpose. "Good. I have your attention now, so listen up, brother." Deacon's deep voice commanded attention. Deacon leaned in, keeping his voice low enough for the others around not to hear. "You are a descendant of one of the most powerful gods, Ben. Get your shit together, grasp it as it's the new you, and then pursue that beautiful goddess. Until you can figure you out, you can't help her. She is not ready, and neither are you. If you push it and jump the gun, you will only hurt you both. None of us will allow that." He knew Deacon was trying to help, but as an adult, no one likes feeling like they are being reprimanded like a child. He was about to lash out when Deacon's extraordinarily strong hand was suddenly around his throat, Deacon's large body blocking his action from everyone's view. "Do you think you can best me? Maybe someday soon you pull your head out of your ass? Not today, kid. That shit won't fly with me. Even when you learn to harness all you are, you still won't best me, so don't try." His hand loosened but didn't release. "I am your brother, not your enemy. I look forward to getting to know you better. Right now, though, you are making it difficult for everyone who is trained to help you. This needs to stop, Ben." Deacon's hand released, letting Ben lean back in his seat. He was smart enough to stay quiet, take a drink of his coffee, and flounder in his stupidity. "I feel so fucking lost, Deke." He finally said the words, almost in a whisper, because of the shame he was feeling. Deacon didn't make him feel stupid with his next words, however. "I can't even imagine not knowing your entire life, or at least most of it. You already know most of us knew we were way different than others from the time we were all rather young. Ben gave a single nod. Here's the thing, though. You are different and in a good way. You now have the power to help, to guide, and to protect. Deacon looked over his shoulder to see Colby chatting with the waitress Shirley before his attention returned. And if you get yourself on the right track, you could love like you have never loved before, and real soon too. Deacon's finger popped up to stall what Ben would have said, but you, but make sure you're clear here and now. Not one of us will allow that. Deacon waved his finger between Ben and Colby. Until we see both of you are ready to handle it, we are bonded now, brother. I may not know you well in the daily life sense, but you're inside of me now, like I am you, and I do love you and her. So step up and let us help you find your way. With his parting words, Deacon stood, knocked his knuckles lightly on the table, grabbed his food, and left. Holy shit, his head was everywhere. Maybe getting his ass kicked in the gym would help. I'm out of something to drink. Sorry, y'all. Ben wasn't a weak man. He was fit, had well-honed muscles and strength. That was all before the necklace broke and gave him what apparently was indeed his real true life back. He was tall at 6'6". Should have been a sign when he was growing up, since no one in his adopted family was tall, he thought. He had thick, broad shoulders he had worked his ass off to build growing up, which came to mind as an afterthought. Especially being on stage. They used a lot of energy jumping around putting on a show for the masses. He always believed in a good diet and a strong body being key to how he was able to do so much. Ben had to believe that was still true. Granted, he did love him a good old pizza or a messy loaded burger, but they were treats more than something he partook in often. Each descendant, his friends, had all lectured him since his new revelation. Maybe, just maybe, he could start to believe in himself again. Maybe use the wisdom they had all shared, but regardless, he needed to step up, as Deacon had said. Ben needed to own up, as Cam once told him. He needed to recognize he was a demigod, as Heath had pointed out, and not be some basic human any longer. The ladies were much nicer with their words, but he knew they all meant the same things. Ben stood, cleaned his beer bottles and caps up before taking one more look out to the forest. Fuck you, Hades. His voice was filled with the sound of anger that he couldn't even hide from himself, let alone anyone else. Guess I best get my ass to the gym. Time to become the demigod I'm apparently supposed to be. All right, everybody. That's all I got time for tonight. So that brings you up to chapter 2. And again, this is Emerge. It's book 3 in the Descendants by Sara Gonzales. All right. I know that this book is on KU. So if you're part of Kindle Unlimited, please go get it. And yes, Kat, so sorry, so sad. I know it just sucks when I got to stop, don't it? Thank you, Sarah, for letting me read this. I think it's gone much better than it has the past time or two. Whew. Except for all those gods and goddesses. There's so many of them. I have a hard time getting through all those. Let's see. What's everybody else saying up through there? Right. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I ended up having 2 that stuck with me throughout the whole thing. Sara and Scarlet. Yay. Alrighty, so tomorrow night I have somebody help me. Fancy, you're gonna start learning this. You can tell me faster. Healing His Heart by L.N. Manning. Crescent Edge Pack Book 3. So, tomorrow night we got a shifter book. You know how much I love my shifter books. Oh, yeah. Alrighty. So, those that are new to my group, I normally do readings on Wednesday night and Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And I will be taking off the month of August because I just need a break. It's been 2 years. It'll be 2 years next week. So, no, 2 weeks. 2 more weeks and it'll be 2 years. So, yeah, I've been doing this that long now. So, alrighty, I'm gonna let you guys go on TikTok because you two are the only ones there. I don't remember how to get out of here. Okay. Alrighty, I will see you guys on the flip side. You guys have a thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Alrighty, you guys have a wonderful evening and come back tomorrow night and join us for some shifters. Yum. Happy reading.